There's been rumblings in recent weeks about a story from the Wrestling News Observer newsletter that there was like industry people, power players in the industry, believing that Vince McMahon may be working his way towards creating another company. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, you haven't been hearing about it because he's been understandably keeping a low profile for the reasons he should, is that he's been he's been selling tons, if not all, of his TKO stock. And reportedly, the shares he sold has netted him over $1 billion. So he's got $1 billion now. And there's been talk, there's some in the industry, the wrestling industry, that think he's working his way towards a new company. Now, there's been difficulties in that. Now, a lot of people don't know that he has a 1 year no-compete clause. We've all heard no-compete clauses for like 30 days for wrestlers. This guy's got a 1 year, so he couldn't even start this thing till January of next year. Two, he's got the obvious image problems with this whole accusations against Janelle Grant and all this kind of stuff. So there's a belief like, who's going to want to work with him? But then again, this is the era where you can just make your own app and just have your stuff broadcast anywhere. And there's so many networks, there's probably someone that'll be willing to work with them. So one of the things I wanted to ask about, we covered on the article today, is that who might be targets of Vince and his money, because he's going to have money to throw at people, and that will make them make the decision to join him. But before that, what are your thoughts, your perspective? I think it's very possible this guy has a massive ego. He's a workaholic. He's just not going to quietly go into retirement. What are your thoughts? Is this realistic, or nah? There's just too much negative around him, and this dude's like 80 years old almost.
What paragon of virtue starts up a new wrestling company in this day and age, you know? Oh, man. This is so much to unpack from this. It really is interesting. And, you know, honestly, the knee-jerk reaction would be like, no, it doesn't make any sense. But to your point, the man's ego and the man's, you know, need to prove that he's right in every capacity could see him really take a shot at this, you know? And there's a lot of avenues where it could work. To your point, you know, you don't really, you know, network, obviously there's a lot of money in a network deal, but it's not necessary, you know. I mean, there's plenty of avenues that they can get the product out there. In terms of targets of who he would go after, I mean, the obvious choice to me is Brock Lesnar. I think that'd be, you know, so much so that I don't even think he'd consider this without somebody the level of Brock in his pocket to kickstart this endeavor. Because, you know, say what you want about Brock, but the dude is box office and has a great relationship with Vince over the years, so much so that it's been reported it's almost like a father figure type deal. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, conversations have been had and Brock would be one of the ones willing to take a chance on Vince and this new venture. With Brock in his pocket, that's where things get interesting, because that is a big name, and, you know, maybe building a roster of other cats that are floating out there that might be looking for an opportunity. Who knows? This is a really wild card kind of scenario, but I think that the biggest speed bump is the image problem. Yeah. That's not something that is taken lightly. You know what I mean? Like in this, especially in this day and age, where there's a lot of accountability in terms of, you know, the public opinion. That's going to be a lot to overcome. Like, people had been for the longest time talking about how Vince was the biggest problem with WWE for decades, and, you know, the hot streak that they've been on without him kind of proves that. Yeah. So, you know, to take a chance on him with a new company, it's like, you know, not a lot of wrestling fans would be for that, but he does have a lot of resources at his disposal, a lot of powerful friends. Who knows where this would land? And I'm just super fascinated by his need at this point to almost undercut what he built. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the fact that he would have rather sold to TKO than pass it on to the ideal next people in line was just, it says so much about the guy. And now with this being a possibility, it's so fascinating. This dude is one of the, he's such a crazy cat, and would not put it past him to try something like this.
And what's hilarious about it is that if he were to do this, and it just, if you've heard all the stories about him and the no sleep and the working and the workouts in the middle of the night, like, he's not built to just retire and go do things. That's just not how he's built. Like he you know, like he probably knows, like a lot of legendary coaches and all kinds of executives, like you retire all of a sudden, you die. Like you know, he just but the funniest thing is that he'd be the first guy to say all of a sudden that, oh, I'm doing this because it's good to have competition. It's good to have other options, when this is the anti-options, anti-competition guy as has ever been, which would be hilarious. You nailed it. I on the article we did on on Ringside Intel, Brock Lesnar was my top choice. The other names I mentioned that I can see totally too were especially now that he pretty much confirmed he has no interest in going to AEW and going back to WWE seems highly likely. Bill Goldberg. I could totally see them throw money at Goldberg. Goldberg would gladly take it and take the money if they give him the money. He doesn't want to go to AEW. WWE's an option. He's not going to go TNA and New Japan. Doing this thing for some match against Brock. He'd do it. Another one I could see is Kane. Kane be a weird one. You know, like he's still in very good shape for his age. Why not? Jeff Hardy. You know, Jeff Hardy might be a free agent in the next few months, so that's always a possibility. He would leave AEW. I don't know if they want to take another run with Jeff Hardy again with all his issues. TNA, it's always, I'm sure he can go TNA, but yeah, go to work with Vince to get a lot of money. I can see that too. Another one I could totally see is, probably a lot of people forgot about him, Alberto Del Rio. Like, he's gotten back into the wrestling game. He's doing the Mexican wrestling stuff again. But it clearly, none of the North American promotions really want to touch him because he's had his own outside the ring allegations, stuff like that. But that's a guy. You know, he's Spanish speaking. I could totally see Alberto Del Rio. But, yeah.
Think about the names that you just mentioned. You know what I mean? They all come with so much baggage.
Yep. That's the only way you're going to get them.
Yeah, 100%.
And like, yeah, you can sign a bunch of indie guys, but Vince is the stars. He wants the stars. He's not going to do like Jeff Jarrett and create a TNA or Global Force Wrestling for the bottom up builder. He's not doing it. He's going all in right away. Big names. You need big names to do that.